Stand by, everyone. It's normally with my live streams, it's only for my premium group, so there's usually not that many people coming. We'll probably get a few dozen people just because I'm doing it publicly, so I want to give it another 5 minutes for people to join. Um, yeah, give it a few minutes. I'm gonna grab a drink and then we'll get started. So everybody, just join, sit tight, just a few minutes. It's 1:52 now, so before 1 o'clock. I'd say even less than that. I'm not gonna wait till, or it's 1:52 p.m. Eastern now. I'm not gonna wait until 2. Before that will start. So just give it like 3, 4, 5 minutes. Let some people hop on the stream, and then we'll dive in. I got some interesting stuff to go over. Some really bullish scenarios. We'll go over the bearish models too, but some really bullish models I want to discuss. And I don't have much. It's going to be a quick stream, but that's why I figured I would invite everybody publicly. I haven't done a public stream in a while, and I like to do that. I like to invite people to check out some of our stuff outside of the group. So it'll be good. All right, I'll be back in a few minutes. Again, waiting for people to join. Sit tight. And feel free to use the chat if you guys have any questions or anything. Let me bring that up in another window because last time it wasn't working. There we go. Yeah, so use the YouTube chat if you guys have questions or anything like that. Again, I don't have that much time. The kids are napping now, and I kind of have to do some stuff around the house, get the power washer cleaned up, stuff like that. So, but I want to go over the models with you guys and talk about some potential trade scenarios. All right, I'll be back in a few minutes. All right, I'm going to dive in a sec. One sec. Do you find new gems for Flux Training Group members? Yeah, of course, Joel. That's what I do. So, well, all right, I'm going to shill my group, because it's what I do. You deal with it. If you don't like it, leave, you know? I'm going to show my group a couple times and make a couple of minor announcements, but I'll be quick about it. I wanted to dive right in, but just because he asked a question, just so people do know, if you found me through YouTube where I'm streaming publicly right now, usually I do live streams just for my premium group. In my premium group, it's not a signals group, right? So I don't say, buy this, sell this, buy this, sell this, do this, do that. I stay away from telling people what to do with their money. I just say, this is what I did. I entered this trade. I entered that trade. Like, this is my entry on Ethereum. Really great precision entry, really close to the bottom. It dips slightly because my models are really precise. So I share all of my trades, and people can blindly copy them if they choose. But I just urge people not to do that, especially in my premium group. I teach my premium members everything I know. And the point is, like, I'll share my trades with you, but you have a different risk tolerance. You have different goals. You have a different trading style, different, you know, your time zone may be different. You might not be able to watch the market as much. So because of those differences, you shouldn't blindly follow anybody. Signals groups are horrible. Don't join a signals group and don't blindly copy signals. It's a terrible idea. It's really dangerous. You need to learn risk management skills and techniques. So I teach my premium group all of those skills and techniques so they can see my trades. And instead of just blindly copying me, they'll say, all right, that one looks like a good trade that fits my risk profile. That trade works for me. I'm going to do what Jesse did because I agree with it. You know, you want to make that decision actively. So yes, I share all the gems I find. I had some 30, 40, 50x breakouts. I'll share one of my other live streams with you, and you can go back and watch it, where I went through some of my longer term trades where I made 30, 40, 50x on them. It was incredible. But no, my group is not a signals group. That's not what I do. See, I shilled my group for talked about my group. I didn't even shill it. I didn't even tell anybody to join, but just talking about my group for 2 minutes, 7 people just left the stream. So it is what it is. I don't care. You know, I need people to join. All right, let's dive into this. Well, because for those who don't know, I got banned from Twitter, so I don't have, tens of thousands of followers anymore to try to bring people to the group. So I don't really have that luxury. So now my only option is to talk about it on live streams and other stuff. So if you don't like listening to me show my group, then don't come here and get my free work, All right, let's do a quick review. So I already told the group that I think Ethereum is starting to build up for a move right here. Now, the last time we had a bullish formation with an ascending triangle, it broke down. So with an ascending triangle, typically there's about an 80 to 85% chance it breaks up, 20-25% chance it breaks down. This one broke down. It just happens. Sometimes there's external variables. There's fundamentals in play. There could be some piece of news that comes out, some announcement that's been made related to the crypto space. Plenty of things that can happen, plenty of variables in play, and you could always have those bullish scenarios break down. So that happened last time. I think it's looking a little bit more bullish now, but of course it can still break down. And again, that's why with my group, like I was saying, I focus so much on risk management, because you always want to prepare for all eventualities. My entry on Ethereum here was really precise. You can see I went down ever so slightly before breaking out. I got into Ethereum again right here, and it broke out again, really close to the bottom. I got in and went down ever so slightly and then just went up from there. So I'm really good at those precision entries, but, and this is the key, down here, originally I got in, right? And then it dumped down, it got almost down to my stop loss down here, but it didn't hit my stop loss. It broke up and continued up like I anticipated. So I got this big bull run, 35% run on Ethereum, right? Now, when risk management comes into play is when you're entering a trade like that, you want to be able to place a stop loss and have your entry be above a strong support structure. So if you buy in above a strong support structure, like here, the 222 EMA, this red line, is part of my Ichima dynamic supports, my Ichima model. I have a lot of videos. If you look up all of my videos by the most watched, the one with the most views, like a few thousand views, is all about my Ichima model. And you could just search ICHEMA, and I have my Ichima dynamics indicator here, and it's for free. You can go on indicators here and type in Ichima like that, and you'll see this one, Ichima Dynamics, 1,400 uses, downloads by Darth Crypto, Jesse Feinberg, that's me, and that includes the 3 EMAs, the 55, the 99, and the 222, along with the Ichimoku Cloud with the correct settings the way I use them. And the way I use it, I'm not going to get into it much in this video, but each of those EMAs has the potential to be a really strong support. So I could buy in right above the 222. The 222 holds and it breaks out. If I missed that, I could have bought in right here because it was bouncing right here on the 55 and the 99 EMA. All these bounces, I could have bought in on any of those bounces and placed my stop loss just below those EMAs, right? And then if it were to dump and it were to fail, like with this ascending triangle, it failed. If that bullish setup fails, I would take a small loss of 1 or 2%, maybe 3%. But if it breaks out, I can make a lot more, right? So that's why it's really important. So you want to anticipate all those eventualities. You don't want to say, well, Jesse said this is bullish, so it's going to break out. I'm going all in. You want to have a stop loss, and you want to be able to anticipate that potential dump. So right now, it does look really bullish, and I'm going to explain why in a few seconds. I just want to caution everybody, I'm not saying go all in or anything. What you need to do is if you agree and you think it looks really bullish and you like the model and you think that what I'm showing makes sense, if you want to get into a trade, just make sure you realize that, yes, there's an 80-85% chance we break up. There's still a 20-25% chance we dump down, right? Or a 15-20% chance we dump. So you want to have a stop loss and you want to make sure that if it were to dump, you're protected, right? So in this case, I bought in over here when it was bouncing on this trend line support because it was a strong ascending triangle, and then it dumped down. But I had my stop loss really tight below that trend line because I knew if this trend line were to fail, it was probably going to be a big failure, and sure enough, it dumped way down. So I took a small loss, and then it went way down, and then I was able to buy down lower before the next run up. See how that works? So in the case of Ethereum, I have something, it's a concept that I teach in the group, which is a hidden ascending triangle, HAT. Right? So normally with an ascending triangle formation, you'll hear all the time people who read textbooks and people who didn't teach themselves, right? People who figured this stuff out, who are classically trained in technical analysis, or somebody who read a textbook or something, may say, all right, well, that invalidates that model, right? So there was a trendline support or there was a resistance, it got broken, it's now invalidated, it's no longer an ascending triangle. So in those scenarios, there are some circumstances where it's still a valid ascending triangle. And I call that a hidden ascending triangle for that reason. Because other people say that it's no longer valid. I contend that it is. So let me show you what I mean. We had this ascending triangle before, right? Now you'll notice what happened here. We went up, broke back down, and now we're hitting resistance. And we're trying to break above this resistance, right? So if I were to extend the old top of that ascending triangle from over here, boom, boom, right? Then we broke through, came back down, and now we're trying to push back above it again. It's almost as if this break on the top never happened, we would still have a valid ascending triangle right here because we have a trend line. We have a trend line support. So we have gradually increasing higher lows, creating an upwards trend, trend line support, and we have a consistent resistance up top. So that top side resistance right here, that top side resistance is the top of our ascending triangle, and we have a trend line support pushing us up. So we are in the apex of that ascending triangle. My point of the hidden ascending triangle concept is that just because it broke through here, technically there would be people who would say, well, that's no longer a valid ascending triangle because it's been invalidated. But if you understand what's happening behind the scenes, that doesn't always make sense. Behind the scenes, an ascending triangle is bullish because you have an upward trajectory and you have a trend line support pushing you up with higher lows. As that's happening, you have a consistent topside resistance. So you're squeezing and you're consolidating within the apex of that formation where you're getting rejected from the resistance and you're getting bounced off of the support, and it's creating a higher probability of a breakout as you approach that apex. In theory, it's the second third of an ascending triangle that really has the higher probability of a breakout, but still, as you approach the apex, it's kind of when you get into that go time. It's the moment of truth at this point. You're going to break up, you're going to break down 90% of the time. It's very unlikely you're going to keep stuttering along. It's highly more likely that we're going to get a breakout. So I'm really bullish on Ethereum here. I'm still holding this position. I think it's a great potential entry now. I'm probably going to add a little bit. I'm just going to wait until it bounces a little bit above this resistance. I want to make sure that it clears that resistance first, because if it keeps getting rejected, I don't want to buy in right at the resistance. You usually want to buy above a resistance, because once you break it, it becomes a support, right? I might have a... Hold on, I got to see if I have a couple trades open. One sec, let me check something. I don't have any buys set for Ethereum yet. I just wanted to double check. All right, so I love that. So that's one part of what I really like. We also have a really strong Ichima dynamic support. So we have the 55 EMA is providing a lot of strong support. Let me zoom in more. Oh, so stuffed up. Allergies are killing me. Super stuffy on the 55, right? And the one time the 55 failed, the 99 was there as backup to hold, right? So that's my next Ichima dynamic support. The next one after that would be the top of the cloud, and that's kind of all within this general range here. So there's a ton of support right here for my Ichima dynamics. If you were to enter in right here and place your stop loss 2.25% below your entry, right? Your stop loss would be protected by the trendline support, the 55 EMA, the 99 EMA, and the top of the cloud. Those are all areas where I would normally expect there to be a potential bounce. So there's a lot of support from your entry right here to your stop loss down here. So there's a lot there that's protecting your stop loss. Just like with my entry here, I entered here because I had the trendline support, the 99 EMA, both protecting my stop loss, as well as an additional older trendline, right? Same thing with the other entry. I usually always enter when I have multiple potential supports to protect my stop loss from getting hit, a higher probability of a breakout. So that's my thinking here. If you look at other time frames, for those who are familiar with my stochastic oscillator model, this one, it's still valid and it's still giving us a pretty repetitive cycle, but you'll see it's compressing in a bit of a wedge formation. And that's happening because we're consolidating in the apex of this triangle. Let me show you what I mean. So, the best time to use the Stoch oscillator and using the waves, right? Up and down, those up-down moves are shifts in momentum, and they usually correspond with shifts in price action. So here we are getting relatively high, but if we do break out from the top side resistance, we'll break out here, we'll be able to continue upwards and get into that overbought range. But as of right now, it's sort of consolidating within an apex here. So we're going to see a breakout up or a breakout down, one or the other. I have a long-term LTC, Joel, but I don't have a short-term LTC trade open. I should have probably opened one, but I don't have one yet. I might open a short-term trade on LTC. I'll get to that in a few. So the hourly model as such. The 4-hour model, the Stoch hasn't been as reliable, but it still does work. We did have really big moves up with a pretty small Stoch move before, so you can't trust this as much. It's not as reliable of a model of late, but still, it's bullish. There's plenty of room for upward momentum. And then again on the daily, we turn bullish again on the daily, and that's also not a really clean wave structure, but still, it's good enough that you can see there's plenty of potential bullish momentum potential there. So we could easily continue upward. I really like this model on Ethereum. So I'm probably going to open an additional position. In addition to this bigger bag that I have, I'll probably buy a little bit more. Maybe a smaller bag with 25x leverage, so I don't have to put as much capital in play, put as much on the line. All right, now BTC, similar setup, although here it's more of just a classic bull pennant. Or at least, well, no, not even really. Let me see. I don't think I've updated any of these potential trend lines, but you always want to draw trend lines and see what you can find, right? So let's see what we can find. Any newer trends? We got trend line resistance here. You know what? Looking at this, the wave structure, I haven't done an Elliott wave count of late, but it actually looks good because this as a wave 1 with a wave 2 retrace. Let me see what the fib retracement is. Whoops. So we're going to do a Fibonacci retracement for that move, and I want to see, yeah, right exactly to the 50% fib retracement. See that? So there's your 50% fib. Let me zoom in a little bit so it's easier to see because I use pretty high resolution on my screen. I want you guys to be able to see better. All right, get rid of that. That was for a trade that I'm in, but so yeah, we came down exactly to that 50% fib retracement. it's always nice to get back to that 618 golden ratio. We also had a horizontal support there, but we had such a strong trend line from earlier that we're not able to break down below it. That's fine. That's a good retrace. So that looks like a completed wave 1. We have a wave 2, which means right now we're in wave 3. So in order to figure out where we could potentially go when we do move up, and I think we're moving up here, I'm pretty confident. We're bouncing off the top of the cloud on the 55 EMA, so there's strong support. That's each of my dynamic supports right there at play. You zoom in more. So you'll see 55 EMA, but mostly the top of the cloud as well. So there's a ton of support. That 55 EMA is crushing it right now, right? When the 55 finally failed over here, it was holding after, but at first it failed. What happened? The 99 EMA held. That's why I use those 3 EMAs. So we're looking really bullish right here. Short term, breaking off of those Ichima dynamic supports. The other time frames aren't as useful in BTC, although I will say the daily model makes me feel pretty confident that we have some potential bullish action. Jeez, I can't breathe. I'm so stuffed up. So we have to get above this trend line resistance right here. Once we get above that trend line, we're wide open. So where could we potentially go in BTC? Well, that would be easy. So if this is wave 1, right, and that's wave 2. So what I would do is a fib extension. So do a fib extension. So there's wave 1. I'm going to drop that at the bottom of wave 2. And pretty much right where I predicted. So a 168 extension would be at 68K. Now, I actually have a target for BTC up around 75K, a little under 75K, going back months. I've had that same target for months. So in the case of BTC, if we do get a breakout here, it could be a really good opportunity to pick up some momentum and get back up into the mid-60s. We have to get above this trendline resistance. Of course, that's very, very short term. Looking beyond that, there's several other factors at play. I'm looking more at the shorter term stuff now to try to figure out what's going to happen more immediately so I can make some potential altcoin trades. So we want to see what happens with that trend line there. I'm going to set an alert. I want to get notified if we break above that resistance. So if we break back above 60K and close there, I'll get a notification and then I can figure out what to do. So yeah, BTC also looks bullish. I'm not in a new BTC trade now. I closed my last one. I'm just riding the Ethereum one now, and I want to look at some alts. Anybody have any questions so far? And if not, I'll move on and dive into some of the altcoins and see if there's any setups. I only have a few more minutes, but we can run through some of the alts in my watch list and look for some potential entries. Right. Not requests, but more questions about the stuff I discussed. But I can, yeah, we'll look at LTC, sure. I definitely want to look at LTC in a sec. And really quick, so I mentioned when I started the stream, I mentioned that obviously I'm going to show my private group because it's what I do, and I don't have Twitter anymore to bring people in. But I wanted to make another announcement about that. So if you find any of my live streams or you find any of my content from a group in Telegram or a Discord group other than Flux Trading Group, any group anywhere that shares any of my content, my live stream links, what they're doing is somebody signed up for my group and paid for it, and then they steal my work and sell it to you. So they're ripping me off and they're scamming everybody else. So I just wanted you to be aware that you are potentially in some scam group that's ripping me off and some other people off. So if you are not that kind of person and you don't want to be in that group and you wanted to sign up with my group or somebody else's group, that would be very nice to support us instead of being part of those guys ripping us off. I really hate those people. And now I know how Eminem felt when I was selling the Slim Shady LP my sophomore year of high school when I was burning copies and I downloaded off of Napster. All right, let's do But yeah, I'm not going to go too heavy on the shilling of the group. But like I said, being banned from Twitter means I don't have access to tens of thousands of followers anymore. Even after I've lost my big accounts, I lost 25,000, then 12,000, then 8,000, and now I'm just like, I give up. I'm not going to rebuild from scratch all over again because they keep banning me every time somebody mass reports me for evading a suspension. So I'm not going to bother with Twitter. I don't have the access to the crypto Twitter community to try to bring people into my group, and I'm really reliant on that because I need people to join the group to sustain it. So it's worth it for me to spend all the time I spend on it. So if you guys do want to learn, or if you're looking for a mentor, somebody to help you learn how to trade, and I obviously share my own trades with you, then let me know. I'd love to have you join the group. I'll drop the oh, there already is a link. There's a link in the info in the description for this video. There's a link to my Discord server, so you can go there, and there's instructions and details on the group. And if you want, we could get on the phone and chat if you want to do a voice call if you have any questions. All right, that's something I do with premium members. I'm available by phone and stuff. All right, so LTC looked so bullish. So I had a short-term trade I got into, but I had a longer-term bag. So I had several long-term entries on LTC. This was a short-term trade where I got in and got stopped out right before I broke out. So it sucks. Sometimes it happens, but obviously it's worth the risk. That's the whole point of my model is I'll get in, and sometimes I'll get stopped out of a trade and then it breaks out. That's fine. I accept that that's a possibility because in other circumstances, I could get into a trade like I did on FIL. Some of you guys might remember I did that on a public stream as well, where I entered into FIL down here. My stop loss was only 1.25% below my entry. So it was a really, really low risk trade. 1.25% below my entry, I had a stop loss, and I got in right on a trend line in a similar formation to what we have now in Ethereum, one of those ascending triangles, right? We had a much stronger trend line support. So I bought in right above that trend line support. Like I said earlier, 85% probability of a break up from an ascending triangle, especially with a strong trend line support like this. I bought there, tight stop loss, 1.2% below my entry, and that ended up turning into a run of 470%. Massive, right? So obviously sometimes I'm going to get stopped out. Like here, I set a stop loss. Oh, this was a longer term play. That's different. Sometimes I'll set a stop loss and then I get stopped out before it breaks out. It happens. I'm fine with that. It's part of the job. So yeah, with LTC, that's exactly what happened. I got stopped out before that last bullish move up. Now she's retracing a little bit. This looks a little bit more like the alts. It doesn't follow the majors like everything else, but short term, it looks like, given its proximity to the 55 EMA, it wants to bounce here, but I wouldn't buy in yet. I'd want to wait and see if I could get in right on the 55. According to the 4-hour model, that Stoke is still coming down, but I'm not worried about the Stoke model on LTC really, because every time we do get a downward correction on the Stoke and the price, it's such a minor dip. When it's this bullish like it's been the last couple days, I'm not too worried about it. So I'm definitely down to get into a new LTC position. I just want to make sure it's a low risk entry. Like here, my stop loss was only 2% below my entry. If I bought right here, I couldn't put my stop loss 2% below my entry because that would just be below the prior candle. I'd want to have my stop loss below the 55 EMA, which is one of my key dynamic supports. But overall, it's still really bullish. I think she's going to continue up aggressively, especially if Ethereum breaks out. All right, so I'm going to drop through some of my watch list. Oh, man, you guys should have seen this yesterday. Obviously, this RSR trade was really great. Nice precision entry, right? I bought in, had a nice support structure here. It protected my stop loss, so my stop loss didn't get touched, and then we broke out for a total of 18% at the top, and now it's back down to like 10% up. But it was actually kind of cool. I told the group, right, it was after which dip. We broke out, and then we dipped right here, right to where the bottom of the cloud is, right where that 55 EMA is, and I said that was the bounce spot. And sure enough, like 20 minutes later, I tried to break it out again. It's pretty awesome. It was a really great call. Super precise. I love those precision calls, like the FIL trade I just showed you. I'm especially proud of that one. It was super, super low risk. At worst, I could only lose 1.2%. If the thing crashed, I had such a nice, well-placed stop loss, I would have lost 1.2%. But I said if it breaks out, it's going to break out big, and boy, did it. 600, 500% or whatever it was. Before we run through more of them, really quick question from Joel. With your model, is it safer to enter before the breakout? So it depends. Different circumstances. If you're in like an ascending triangle formation, so like I showed you with FIL or like the current setup on ETH. So with Ethereum right now, if it was down here, like I would say absolutely buy here. That's why I did, right? So I wasn't waiting for it to break out from an ascending triangle. In this case, I was buying because it was just above that key support structure. There's the trendline support and the 99 EMA. So I bought just above that. So my stop loss had all that protection. I could set a stop loss a measly 1.7% below my entry. Right now, it's right at the top resistance of that triangle formation. So you wouldn't want to enter there. In this case, it's better to wait until it actually breaks out, because then you get some sort of confirmation. If you buy now, chances are it's a 50-50 shot. It may get rejected and come back down. So until you break that big resistance, you shouldn't enter. So it's a different situation. So if you're in an ascending triangle, it's always better to get in before the breakout if you can, but you don't want to get in right at the resistance. Once you're up at that point, you may as well just wait a little longer to see if it breaks out. One thing you could do, because this is pretty rare, it broke out, right, and then came back down and fell into the triangle again. So usually, and this is why I talked about the concept of a hidden ascending triangle. So you have, you'll get a breakout, and then it'll come back and retest the top of the triangle, and then go up again. So if you miss that initial breakout, there's usually a chance to buy in when it retests. Where is up 400% on XRP, actually. Crushing it. I haven't sold. I think she's going to go higher, so I haven't sold yet. I just have the feeling there's going to be some sort of announcement about the litigation. They're going to get some sort of win, I think. They're going to win a motion, a critical motion or something. It's going to be some sort of news like that. It's going to cause it to pump like crazy. Because the government's cases always fall apart in these situations. Here's a good example of my 55 EMA. Like, imagine if you were just buying every time it bounced the 55 EMA. Boom, 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 boom. And it just launches. Such a great model. Where's the CME gap? I haven't actually looked of late. Let me see. $54.5. I assume that's what you're talking about. Yeah, I don't know if that's going to get filled on this run. It could. It might have to wait until there's some sort of bigger dump, because we are looking at a larger correction. We're going to get a larger multi-day correction. Actually, probably a multi-week correction, to be honest. That's definitely coming. I don't know exactly when, so don't ask. I can't predict exactly when, but I can tell you it's definitely coming. But hey, if it dumps and closes that, I'll just buy a lot. If it gets all the way down to 5,400, 54,000, I'd probably enter a ton right there. Well, let's run through a few alts, because like I said, I don't have much more time. So RSR, I already have an open trade there. I did it with the group. That was a great trade. Same with the initial run here, 35% breakout. This one's looking really strong as well. So RSR's been doing well for us lately. We have this trendline resistance, which is going back quite a while, it looks like. Well, at least since earlier in the month. We've already broken above that. So it looks really strong. We could probably continue upward. We need to close above that resistance, though. Just tapping above it quickly like that doesn't do us much good. I don't see anything as far as a good short-term entry on RSR, so I'm not going to make any trades there. I'm just going to leave what I have open. Same with ADA. ADA is breaking out nicely. ADA looks really, really bullish right now. Let me see. Yeah, I'm loving this ADA model here. So, breakout 7% so far from my original entry from our live stream in the group. Have anything that could be a good... Yeah, it's too late. I wouldn't get in now if you weren't in ADA. I might get back into Theta. I got stopped out of a couple. Oh man, I missed it. Shit. That's where I would have gotten in, down here when it was riding along the top of the cloud in this area. Still might be worth it, to be honest. I got screwed over by OGN2, which where did it bounce? Right on the 55 EMA. Where did it bounce here? Right on the 55 EMA. Where did it bounce here? Pretty much right on the 55 EMA. Getting the point yet? There's no way to do this as a low-risk trade, but I really like both Theta and OGN still. I have long-term bags, but nothing short-term. Let me double-check the daily models real quick. Theta looks like that can uncross and continue bullish, but Theta I can make work easily because that's actually pretty low risk. Well, it's not low risk per se, but I could do it as a short-term trade. I'm going to make a trade on Theta. I'm going to do that because I'm going to keep my stop loss about... I'm going to set some buys in case it dips a little bit more, but if my stop loss is about 2.5% below my entry, that'll work. However, I'm not going to buy it just yet. Let me show you. I'm going to wait for something. Let me just figure this out. So we're getting above this trend line, which is held except for that one point where it momentarily broke. What else do I have here? The hourly Stoke oscillator has been pretty consistent, right? So just go back like here, right? See how the Stoke was high at this point, like it is right now? See how the Stoke's high and it's crossing over, coming back down? Look at over here. Same thing, right? What happened? That was the start of this wave down, right? The next time the Stoke was that high, turned down, was up here, right here. What happened? Oops. This initial leg down, right? Then it went up again, turned south again right here. What happened? This leg down. And then it went up again, and then we had this correction, right? On the Stoke, same thing. Turned south and came down. What happened? Came down again. So every single time the Stoke, on this chart that I can see, without going back even further in time, the Stoke model has been on point. Every time we get a bearish reversal on the Stoke and it turns back down after getting up high, we see that correction on the price action. So probability would dictate we're going to see a dip on the price action momentarily on Theta. So I'm not going to enter this just yet. We might come back down to where this 222 EMA is potentially. We could kind of come back down slightly just to ride that trend line support. I'm not sure yet. I'm going to wait though. It's still possible it just breaks out from here, but like I said, I just showed you 5 out of 5. The last 5 times we had this sort of formation on the chart, it came back down, right? So same thing. I would expect it to do the same thing this time. Plus, that would be perfect, because if I can get back down closer to where like the top of the cloud is in this 4-hour model, that would be an incredible, incredible potential setup where I could buy in, stop loss only 2% below my entry. It's a really good idea. I might set a buy order on Theta at around $12.30, right around there. And then if it does dip to that level, it fills that buy, I'll decide what to do if I'm going to buy more. So I'm going to put like a small buy order there. Let me do that really quick, actually. Well, I don't have to rush. I think I have some time before it gets down there, so I will wait till the stream's over. So, all right, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set right around 12:30. I'll set a couple buy orders, and if we do get that dip like I expect, I really think we're probably going to cool off for upwards of 5-6 hours on theta. It might be a smaller dip though. It depends. Because we're starting to pick up speed and look more bullish, so it might be a smaller one. But let's see. I think it'll come down a little bit. At the very least, I'll be able to buy cheaper, so I don't want to buy right here. I'm going to wait a little bit longer, and then I'll make a decision on what to do on theta. But overall, I do really like it. JST was initially up from my short-term trade, up 10%. I didn't sell or take profit or anything. I just let it ride. Came back down, almost stopped me out, but this is where the precision of my model comes into play, right? The bottom of that Ichimoku cloud is one of my key Ichima dynamic supports, along with the 222 EMA. If one of them fails, I have the next one to protect myself, right? So look where I placed my stop loss. When I entered this trade, I placed my stop loss, so if it did dip over here, I'd have the bottom of the cloud just to protect me, and look where it caught it. 1 candle, 2 candles, 3 candles, 4 candles, and then it rode up along the bottom of the cloud. You see that? Epic example of my model. So as long as it stays in the cloud, if it breaks out of the cloud here, it might actually stop me out. But as long as it stays in the cloud, we're probably going to run back up along this trajectory. So let me see what the other time frames look like. The 4 hour should be reset. Yeah, look at this. The 4 hours reset nicely on JST. This is a good opportunity to get into JST, to be honest, because if you buy in right here, stop loss can go where mine is. That's 2.75% below your entry, right? So imagine we're pretty much at my entry from this original trade, right? So it's almost like the exact same trade. I'm just moving it over to here instead of where I originally had it, right? So you could buy in, your stop loss could go 2.5%, 2.6%, maybe like 2.7% below your entry, and that way you have the exact same protection that I had on my trade, and you have this bullish reversal picking up speed on the 4 hour. Much like I just showed you on theta, look at the Stoke down here. We have this bullish cross on the Stoke. It's starting to cross over as we bounce on the Ichimoku dynamic support at the bottom of the cloud. The last time we bounced on the bottom like this, what happened? That was the bottom of this run. We bounced on the top of the cloud, one of my Ichimoku dynamic supports, and then we launched up, right? And then the time before that over here, we got dumped on right after we started moving up, but you started moving up. That's the key. We bottomed out and started turning up, right? So bottoming out and turning up on the Stoke, bullish crossover on the Stoke, started this run. This bullish crossover on the Stoke started this little run from the bottom all the way up here, which is still 14%. Then it just went into a big dump and screwed us. But you can see how bullish it is. If you got in when the Stoke crossed over right here, bullish, look where that was. That was down here, right before this big run, right? So if you got in at that bottom, you could have potentially rode it up 70%, 60%, whatever that is. So that's why this is really bullish. Now, we don't have a confirmed bullish crossover. They're just sort of touching right now. It's not like we have a full reversal where we're trending upwards now. But the fact that we're this low and we're that close, we're close enough to a bullish reversal on the Stoke, and we're riding right along my key Ichimoku dynamic support that I really, really like this setup, and it's just worth 2.5% risk. If I got into this trade and my stop loss was 7 or 8% below my entry, it might not be worth it because I don't want to risk 7 or 8%, right? But the potential profits that I can take off of this thing, it's obviously worth it to get in and only risk 2.5%. The other thing to notice on here is, other than the bottom of the cloud, what did I just tell you about the top of the cloud being the big dynamic support here? Look what happened here. We broke up, got rejected right at the top of the cloud, 2 candles in a row. So that top of the cloud and the bottom of the cloud, my key Ichimoku dynamic supports, support or resistance. Usually when you break into the cloud, you most often break across to the other side of the cloud, and you'll go back and forth sometimes until eventually you break out of one side. But yeah, JST looking good for an entry right here if you missed the original entry, for those who aren't in the group. If you're in the group and you got in with me, great. Sun has been looking strong since I got in. This is a longer term position, so I'm not too worried about what it's doing right now, but it does look extraordinarily bullish. You have the daily model, same thing, that Stoke trick I just showed you, right? Look at this. Last time we bottomed out and got a bullish reversal on the Stoke, 130% run. That's exactly what we have right here. The time before that, we bottomed out and got a bullish reversal on the Stoke. Really, that was the start of a 192% run. You get the point, right? Down here, if you bought it down on that one, just that little run, 123%. So we started that with this bullish reversal here. So again, we are 5 for 5. The last 5 times we've been at that same level on the Stoke and we turn bullish, we see a big run like that. Doesn't mean it's going to happen every time, but that's what I teach people. you're identifying patterns. You don't need to be an expert in TA. You just need to be good at finding patterns and looking at shit. If you can say, oh, look, every time it hits this 0.5 line, I don't know what it is. I don't know what Fibonacci is. I don't know how to use these tools. But, hey, Jesse showed me how to draw this on the chart. And every time it hits this level, it happens to make a big bounce. Great. Buy at that level. If you can identify a pattern and you can say the last 5 times that this pattern has occurred, the price has gone up at least 10%. Well, you just identified a pattern that you can use to trade, right? Because now, if the last 5 times that specific setup has happened, it's broken out for 10%, you can create a logical statement. If this occurs again, it is statistically likely that that breakout will occur again, right? So in this case, same thing. My Stoke model has just been on point lately. Like really, really on point lately. So hopefully it continues that trend, but it can fail. It's not a guarantee. But based on my model, we are 5 for 5. The last 5 times we've had this setup, we've made a big breakout on SUN. So I got into the group. This was only for the group. I didn't share this publicly, but since I did the stream publicly, now you guys are clued into it as well. This is a big potential breakout setup. Not a guaranteed sure thing, but definitely strong potential. He had a falling wedge, which is my favorite bullish formation, and that's breaking out riding along the 55 EMA, one of my key each of my dynamic supports, as the Stoke is turning bullish on the 4-hour, the daily, and the hourly, so we have confluence across all time frames. Man, I really love this trade. If it fails, I'm just going to wait till it gets a little bit lower and buy back in because I love it that much. But I think it's going to hold. I really hope so, at least. All right. Any questions on that stuff? Any of the topics I discussed from an educational perspective? So I think I'm going to get back into DOT. So I had my original DOT trade, and I actually closed this out for a nice profit. It was like 6% or something. Yeah, I sold it like right at the top because I predicted the correction. So I'm just going to buy back in now. Place my stop loss below the 99 EMA is going to be 4.5% below my entry. I can take that much risk on this, and I'll explain why after. Let me just go get my order in really quick, and then, let me also do this. I'll explain why it worked out that way in a second. I just wanted to paste that in the group as well. All right. So again, I got into this trade. I predicted it was going to run up along the cloud because we had a vertical cloud wall here. Sure enough, we did. I said at the very least we're going to get above the top of the cloud. That's exactly what happened. I predicted this correction across everything. I think I even did so publicly, maybe not on Twitter, but I think I mentioned it in Telegram potentially. I'm not sure. But definitely in the group, we talked about it in detail. I predicted that correction. We also have a strong rejection over here from back then. That equates to a strong support structure here right where my entry was. So you can sort of see that from here all the way over. Let me draw a horizontal line so you can see it better. Drop that right there. Here, so now you can see all that support over here, right? All these candles are all supported right on that support. So I originally got into this trade. It broke out for 7%. Sold it right near the top because I predicted that correction. I didn't move my stop loss up or anything. I figured I'm just going to get out and take the profit, and then I'll buy back in lower, and that's what I've done. I was able to just enter in lower. Well, oh, shit. I got to set my second order. Hold on one second. I only set one buy. Okay. Yeah, I'm good. So at this point, we had the 4-hour fully reset. So that essentially was when I had sold all the way at the top, right? So we came back down. The 4-hour has now reset. It's starting to turn bullish again. And the daily model, more importantly, bled off, and still confirmed bullish. That's why I originally got in expecting this to turn bullish, and now it has. Now I have a confirmed bullish reversal on the daily model. 5 hours left in this candle too, so it's going to be double confirmed. It's going to look even more bullish. This is just from my long-term bag, which I still have, going all the way back, 765% up from that. In January, February, December, the beginning of the year, we got into a lot of trades. Some of them I've done 20, 30x on. MPXS, FET, CHZ, some insane. CHZ was probably my biggest, because CHZ all the way at the top for my original entry was a 65x trade. I still can't get over that. That's probably my biggest gainer ever, I think. At least this bull season, that's for damn sure. So right now, for my original entry, I'm sitting on like 31x, so 3,000% profit from my original CHZ long-term trade. But you can actually see I got in several other times. And one of the methods that I teach to my members is one of the tricks I've employed is to build up that longer-term portfolio. Every time I make a short-term trade, after my long-term entry, whenever I make a short-term trade and I buy in like with a small bag, these are all long-term buys. So I just kept accumulating long-term along the bottom. You could tell they're long-term because I didn't have a stop loss on them. I dragged my stop loss. When you set the long tool like this, you could drag, you could drag your stop loss like this up and down right to where you want it to be to show like what the trade is. Entries in the middle. Entries in the middle right here, target up at the top, and then stop loss here, right? So you drag it wherever. I just drag it out of the way so it's not even really on screen when I do a longer term trade with no stop loss. So that's how you could tell, because this was 20, that was 28% below my entry, the stop loss. This was 20%. Obviously, I've never used anything more than 4% on a trade. 4, 5, 6% maybe. So anyway, these were all long-term entries. I just accumulated like crazy. But I also did make some short-term trades along the way. You could probably see them if I drop down from the daily to like the hourly chart. So what you do is when you make a short-term trade and you make a 5, 10, 50% profit, great. What I'll do is I'll sell 95% of the position and I'll just take a little bit, like 5% of that bag. Since I made so much profit on it, I make it 10, 15, sometimes I make 30, 40, 50, 60% on short-term trades. So when I make a lot of money on a short-term trade, I can take 5 or 10% of that position and just stick it aside and save it. And I add it to my long-term bag. So every time I have a successful, profitable short-term trade where I do day trading with CHZ and I make money on the day on that day trade, every time I do that, I end up throwing some of those profits into my long-term bag to add to it. So it helps you build up a larger long-term position over time without investing a lot of your capital up front. Now this wick throws things off a little bit, but we do had that falling wedge here. Now it's kind of thrown a little out of whack, but I can redraw it this way, and actually it still makes perfect sense. We broke above the topside resistance, so we've actually broken above this falling wedge, which is extremely bullish. So what did I say before? I talked about with ascending triangles, a lot of the time you break out and then come back to retest the top. Same thing on a wedge formation. A lot of the time you'll break out, come back to retest that trend line support. So the fact that it's holding right here, there's a couple ways it can go. But I'm thinking this is looking pretty bullish. I could do it. I could draw it in more detail in the 4 hour. So yeah, look, right? Tried to wick out, didn't make it. Finally broke through. What happened? Came back down, and we've been riding that trend line support ever since. So now we're trying to break back above these local support formations. The 4 hour model, Stoke, isn't that reliable right now. When the Stoke does all this zigzaggy stuff and short little moves, you can't use it reliably. The examples I gave you before where I showed you how to use the Stoke, those examples, it's perfect. Like full waves, up and down and up and down. And every time it makes that full wave, you see the exact same movement on the price action. So that's very easy to use it. This time it's not as easy to use it because it's kind of doing the all over the place zigzaggy effect. But let me see if I can pick up on anything else here. So I don't have a good plan to enter CHC here. Like I wouldn't say enter right here because you're sitting on a tight stop loss, set a stop loss here. I don't have a setup like that in this case. No low risk setup, but if you were to just start buying some CHC here, it is going to go up a lot. So as a long-term position, if you just have a little bit set aside, it's eventually going to break out really big. I think pretty soon. I'm pretty sure it's going to be pretty soon. but I don't have like a specific entry where I would say this is a particular level that I would get in at. I would just start adding little bits to my bag here and there. All right, let me see really quick if there's anything else that looks like a good short-term trade. And then I gotta let you guys go. Man, I had my link position, and I closed this one too. So just like Dot, I showed you, I closed the link and Dot at the local top, and then bought back in at the bottom for Dot. I was going to do the same thing with Link, but I missed it last night. It started pumping, and I was like, shit, that's what I wanted to do. I sold all the way at the top, and then I wanted to buy back when it was back at my original entry, and I missed it. It just pumped too soon before I had a chance to get into it today, so it is what it is. I missed out. I might still buy Link. I'm just going to wait for it to come back down and retrace a little bit. Then I'm going to get back into a Link bag. But my original entry, for those in the group, I'm very careful for people in the group, as they very well know. Like I said, I don't do signals in the group. It's not a signals group. I share all of my trades like this. If you want to blindly follow them, you can. I advise against it because it's really important that you learn risk management. You understand why I'm doing what I do and how I do it. It's very important you do the educational side and learn that stuff. But for people who do copy my trades, I'm always very careful to say, I'm selling it right here so I can buy back right at the bottom. That's very difficult. So for some people, you guys might not have that skill and you might not be online when I announce it, and I might miss it like I did here. So for a lot of people in the group, they don't just sell something because I'm selling it, right? My model still holds up. I was still bullish about it then. I'm still bullish about it now. So a bunch of people in the group who got in it with me are in this trade. So even though I didn't buy back in, I'm still happy that they're still in the trade, because it always makes me happy when my guys are making money. So right now, that trade's actually up almost 10%, so that's great. All right. XRP, I don't see a good short-term entry on XRP either. Oh shit, I've already been on an hour. Yeah, I really gotta go. All right, let me be quick here. Let me see. I want to find something. I want to find another play that I can make and share with you guys publicly, because I don't do a lot of these streams. That's actually, well, that's interesting. No, that's too low. That could have been a good buy. Ooh. Oh man, I don't see. I'm not going to want to do this. This is going to suck. This is a perfect trade. Almost a perfect trade on Elf. But I really want to make I wanted to make it as like a short-term trade. Alright, let's do this. Because obviously I'm up. That was I had a short-term trade here, which I got stopped out on. My long-term trade, I'm up on. My long-term trade from that entry, I'm still up 16%. So I didn't want to do another long-term bag. I wanted to maybe enter a short-term trade. So since I already have a long-term bag where I got in the other day, I'm going to do a short-term play. And then if I do well on it, I can save it and convert it to a long-term play. All right, yeah, all right, hold on. Let me, I'm buying Elf right now. I'm telling you guys. I'm buying it, and then I'm going to break down the trade after I get my buys in. Okay. This is also a good time to get in Elf for a potential long-term play as well. Man, so from that long-term entry, at the top it was up 60%. That's nothing. There's so much more potential in her. She's got so much more room to run. That 4-hour model looks really good, boys. Like, oh man, she looks good. Look, the last time we were oversold like this, what happened? Literally, look at the stoke down here to the top. Follow this, ready? Just from the bottom, right there. Boom. And then we had a short top, small dip, and then to the next top, which in theory takes us all the way up from there to 111%. The last time before that we were this oversold, we had a pretty small pump, but still a pump. Before that, the last time we were oversold was down here. Follow that up to right here. That was a big pump, 80% pump. Before that, we were this oversold, was right here, and that was again another small one, only 20%. Last time we were oversold down here before that, right here, started that run. So based just on my Stoke model, and again, if you use the Stoke oscillator, I don't use Stoke RSI. There's stochastic, and then there's stochastic RSI, Stoke RSI. I use just regular stochastic, not Stoke RSI. There's only 3 numbers, 5, 3, and 3. So people always ask me the settings. It's different if you use Stoke RSI. These are the settings that I use. And again, if you can identify a pattern like that, you can travel through time. That's what I like to teach people. So hopefully you guys will come join the group so I can teach you too, because I really, really want to bring more people into the group. Get that community back up to where it used to be, membership-wise. And you find me one other trading group out there where the guy who runs the group is like, hey, yeah, if you guys are in premium, just DM me and we'll jump on the phone and we could talk about strategy and go over your portfolio. Show me one group leader who does that. And I'll pay for you to join his group. Nobody does that because nobody gives a shit. Everybody's just here to rip people off, and some people are actually genuine, but they're still not that accessible and transparent. Alrighty. I think I gotta let you guys go. We've been at this for over an hour now, and I was not supposed to do that long of a stream. Let me see if I can find one more short-term entry. Key looks pretty good. Poking above a resistance here. Key looks decent. Now Cody I was really excited for because the daily model looks so bullish. Then she ran out of steam, right? However, she ran out of steam and stopped me out, and then she bounced right on the top of the cloud, which is like magic for me. So I'm torn. I don't know what to do here if I should get back in. So I'm going to have to come back and revisit that. Starting to poke above that resistance now, right? See that? We're trying, starting to push. So it's actually, if you were to buy Ethereum here, right here, set your stop loss below the 55 EMA down here, right? So it's only 1.6, 1.7, here, 1.75% below your entry. You buy right here, you set your stop loss right here at 21.15. Your stop loss is 1.75% below your entry. If it were to dump, and this trendline support were to fail, you would lose 1.75%. That's a very, very small, modest loss. If this does break out, if we push up above, we're going to set new all-time highs and run up to probably, at the very least, 2,300 within the next couple cycles in the 4-hour. Probably within the next cycle in the 4-hour, to be honest. All right. Yeah, I think it's probably a decent time to do that. Just starting to poke above the resistance, plus the fact that you can get in now and your stop loss would only have to go 1.75% below your entry, and you would have the 55 EMA to support your stop loss as well as the trendline support. It's worth the risk for me in that case. I would definitely do that. And for other people, if it is worth the risk for you, again, that's why you don't blindly follow, right? Everybody's different. So it's up to you if you want to do that. But I think that's how I would play it. Since I already have a good sized position here, I'm going to wait a little bit longer, and I want to see if she gets up above like 21.55. If she peaks up a little bit higher, just a little bit more, I'll probably open another leveraged trade. All right. LDC, I'm going to stay out for a few. VTHO 17x right now. I'm up at 18x on that. MPXS was another 30x trade. Oh, I gotta get my token switched over. I forgot. I thought somebody mentioned that in the chat. PundyX redenomination. Yeah, I gotta do that. I gotta you go to tokenswap.pundy.com or something, and then you swap over your tokens. I gotta do that so I can start selling some of them. Chris, what do you mean, what if the 4 hours overbought and the daily isn't? So if the 4 hour stoke is like really high and overbought, like really high indicating it's going to come down, but the daily isn't, is that what you mean? I got whole videos about on time frames because you're looking at multiple time frames, so everything happens within the next level up. It's like the little Russian doll, right? You know the Russian doll, everybody knows what those are, I assume, right? I hope so. It's like that. There's a whole... Everything's happening within the hourly chart, within the 4 hour chart. So when the 4 hour chart on the stoke goes like this from the bottom to the top, and you see a big rise in the price from the bottom to the top, right, along with the stoke model, while that's happening on the 4 hour chart, if you look at the hourly chart, that one move up, on that one big wave up on the stoke on the 4 hour is actually like 5 up and downs on the 1 hour chart, right? So you have all that contained within one big... So like one daily candle contains 24 hourly candles. So you can see like trend lines. You can, in one daily candle, you can actually have a bunch of trend lines and a bunch of ascending triangles and wedges, but you can't see it looking at the one daily candle. You can see it when you look at the hourly chart because you're seeing 24 candles, right? So it doesn't matter if they're not lined up. But when they are lined up, that's usually extremely bullish. When you have the daily and the 4 hour... both reset with a really low oversold stoke that's really low down here below 25.20, that's starting to turn bullish, that's usually the perfect time to get in because you're buying at the bottom of that 4 hour cycle, which is the initial run up, and the bottom of the overall multi-day cycle because that's where the daily is, right? So ideally you're going to get in at the bottom of a multi-day run. That's how you do it. You have to find that confluence across multiple time frames. Again, if you guys are able to, click the link in the description. It takes you to my Discord group and info about how to join it. No pressure. You don't have to. I like sharing free content. I like helping people learn how to be a better trader. I love doing this stuff. But if you are in a position to do so, it would really be cool if you could support me by joining the group. I put a lot of time and effort into it, and these live streams, I love doing them, and I don't do them publicly very often, but I do them all the time with the premium group, and I'm available one-on-one for phone calls, whatever, and live streams with my premium members, because I love teaching and sharing everything I know. All right, I'm going to keep looking for more trades. I just have to do some stuff around the house, help the wife with the kids, so I'm going to do that for a little bit. I'll be looking at trades on my phone, so I'll share everything with the group, obviously, and then if you're not in Flux private group, maybe I'll do like another video update later on YouTube or something for free. So I'll try to put some more stuff out there. But again, even if you're a noob, I love teaching this stuff, even to noobs. If you're an expert trader, I love sharing and teaching my models to expert traders. I really like it. I love doing it, and I really need the help building the group because Twitter screwed me over by taking away my accounts. Anyway, that's that. Thank you guys for stopping by. Make sure you thumbs up the stream, and make sure you follow me if you don't already. Make sure you drop me a sub. And who the hell gave me 4 thumbs downs on the stream? This was a good stream, right? What the hell? It's fucking rude. I hate people. That is so rude. Dicks. Anyway, Thanks for stopping by, guys. Hit me up anytime. You can shoot me a DM if you need me, alright? Later.